people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Young Shannon Ryan is expecting a different Chloe Watson to the one that she's been seeing.
Fight set to go down this weekend on Friday on the undercard of what is a Matchroom show.
Britain's Shannon Ryan is anticipating a reinvented opponent in Chloe Watson on Friday. Ryan and Watson fight at Superfly at London's York Hall on the undercard of the British and Commonwealth middleweight title fight between Kieran Conway and George Littard, and do so with a shot at the IBF title held by Mexico's own Irma Garcia within their sights.
So this is a fight of some significance, of some consequence. The winner is in line to become a champion. Ryan, 28, is continuing to rebuild following her defeat to Emma Doolin in June of last year, and recognizing that the 25-year-old Watson lost for the first time in her last fight to Jasmina Sapotochna in March, and responded to doing so by recruiting a new trainer. Ryan is wary of the potential difficulty involved in preparing for Friday's test. It being that, since Chloe's with a new team and a new trainer, everything you may have seen of her up until this point might soon change.
That loss to Emma Doolin in June of 2024 was the making of me, she said. I realized after that night that it's such a fine margin, and it is the 1% that count and make such a difference. When I look back at it, yes, it is sad because nobody wants to lose, but I'm in such a better place now than I was back then. I believe if I fought her again, it would be a unanimous decision my way. It is her first fight with her new trainer. Watson previously worked with the now late Ricky Hatton.
It's important to note that she switched trainers before Ricky's untimely passing.
She is training under Paul Stevenson, no relation to Shakur Stevenson, at Everton Red's Triangle, so you have to assume that there will be something different. She's also coming from a loss, so if my loss changed me, then I'm expecting the best version of Chloe too. I have seen her fight before, and I think she's game. She is good at what she does, and I think it will be a really great fight. We've boxed 3 of the same girls. She's always on the front foot, very aggressive and very active. But there is a lot I can take away from that. Ryan followed her split decision defeat by Doolin with successive wins over Kate Radomska and Farah El Busari before being matched with Watson. I'm feeling great, she said. Mentally, physically, I'm there. I know every fighter says that it's been their best camp. They're in the best shape they've ever been in, but for me, it really is. My journey with boxing has been a bit of a roller coaster, and I feel like how I am as an athlete now is cemented. Hopefully the world will see this Friday. I'm unpredictable, I do bring chaos, and every round I bring something completely different. I'm looking forward to it. York Hall is a special venue.
There are similarities in between Chloe Watson and Shannon Ryan in the sense that they both
of them
have the same sweet spot. They're both mid-range fighters. They're both aggressive within a round. They like to throw punches. They both have their own brand of athleticism. And in terms of the tail of the tape, they're about even.
They're just about eye level to each other. Shannon does look a little shorter and a little stockier than Chloe, but like I said, they're about even. Shannon is 28, whereas Chloe Watson is 25. If you close your eyes and listen to Chloe Watson talk, it's like talking to Natasha Jonas.
What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Now, Chloe's got that Liverpudlian accent, that Liverpudlian twang.
3 common opponents between them with 1 loss apiece. eye to eye in terms of the tail of the tape. It's an even fight. It's an even match. And I think a make or break fight for Shannon, because if she loses this thing, I don't know that Matchroom keeps her around.
They stuck by her after the loss to Emma Doolin. I don't know that they stick by her if she loses to Chloe. They might invest in Chloe Watson, who for a long time was boxing under the Vazerman banner. I don't think she's with them now.
There is an irony to this matchup. An irony in the sense that Jasmina Sapotochna just beat Chloe Watson, and Emma Doolin beat Shannon Ryan some time ago, yet we've seen less of them and more of these two. These are the two that are boxing on a major platform against each other in what is a fantastic fight, a consequential fight. The winner goes on to fight Irma Garcia, IBF Super Flyweight champion. There are 4 reigning champions in the Super Flyweight division, and of the 4, Irma is arguably the most beatable because she's the oldest. She's in her early 40s.
And she's not getting any younger, though before it becomes about her, it's about these two, and this is a difficult fight to call. Shannon and Chloe are both very good.
We'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches. In men's junior middleweight news, IBF champion Bakram Murtazaliev says if Jaron Ennis wanted to fight, he wouldn't have chosen Lima. Bakram Murtazaliev heard Jaron Ennis and Eddie Hearn mention him Saturday night as a potential opponent on his way to becoming undisputed junior middleweight champion. Murtazaliev would gladly fight Ennis if the former Ring Magazine, IBF, and WBA welterweight champion doesn't face Virgil Ortiz next. The idle IBF junior middleweight champion is cynical, though, regarding the legitimacy of Ennis's interest in facing him.
Ennis's decision to fight the overmatched Uisma Lima in the Philadelphia Natives division debut makes Murtazaliev doubt his intentions. DraftKings listed Ennis as a 30-1 favorite versus Angola's Lima, who was knocked down 2 times and stopped a mere minute and 58 seconds into the opening round of their bout for the WBA interim junior middleweight title at Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philly. If Ennis wanted to fight me, he wouldn't have fought who he just fought, Murtazaliev told The Ring. No one knows who Lima was, but he would have fought me if he wanted to fight, not Lima. He was the IBF champion in a lower weight class and then he moved up. I could have fought him. If he wants to fight me or Ortiz, then why pick Lima? That's a valid question. Seems common sense enough. Why did he pick him?
After he knocked out Lima inside of the first round, they mentioned a lot of names. Virgil, Bakram, Abbas Baru. Ultimately, it's Abbas Baru I think they're going to end up with. That being a WBA interim title fight, and Boots now being WBA interim champion, it stands to reason that if things don't work out with Virgil Ortiz, and I don't expect they will, they'll go after a title, and it won't be Bakram's. Not yet.
Ennis, 28, is generally regarded as one of the most gifted, multi-dimensional boxers in the sport. He has been criticized. However circumstantial some choices of opponents may have been for facing lesser fighters, leaving frustrated fans and skeptical experts who want to see Ennis face somebody better. Murtazaliev, 32, is beyond frustrated because he hasn't fought in almost a year since he overwhelmed the then heavily favored former WBO champion Tim Tszyu last October in Orlando, Florida. Tszyu was a 7-1 favorite, yet Murtazaliev sent him to the canvas 4 times and stopped him in the 3rd round. Proposed fights with numerous championship caliber opponents including Ortiz have not materialized since Murtazaliev demolished Tszyu. The Russian-born champion could defend his title against England's Josh Kelly next, but their teams haven't finalized a deal for the 3rd-ranked Kelly.
They've been in negotiations for weeks, and still no official announcement has been made, which gives me the impression this thing ain't gonna happen.
The IBF scheduled a purse bid for Tuesday if their representatives can't come to an agreement before then. Ennis is ranked 5th by the IBF in the junior middleweight division. The top 2 spots in his top 15 are unoccupied, but Murtazaliev doesn't think it'll matter, even if Ennis became his mandatory challenger.
He's not trying to.
Everybody mentions me after they fight, Murtazaliev said. Sebastian Fundora did too, but then, when it comes to business, everybody disappears. The Ring Magazine junior middleweight title is vacant. Ortiz is ranked 1st among the Ring's top 10 contenders at 154. Fundora is 2nd and Murtazaliev is 4th. fifth-ranked Erickson Lubin will challenge Ortiz for his WBC interim super welterweight title November 8th at the Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas. Robert Garcia, who trains Virgil Ortiz, already made it clear they're not going after Bakram because of the IBF rehydration cap.
To my knowledge, the IBF are the only ones that do this.
And that's why Virgil Ortiz, given his previous bout with rhabdomyolysis, will not subject himself to that rehydration cap. Boots Ennis, who was just busting at the seams at 147, he will not subject himself to it either. Not straight away. Because the IBF waives that rehydration cap in the event of a unification match, I figure that Boots won't target Bakram until he already has a belt.
Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz is the next fight to be made. Is that agreed yet? Where were we at with that fight since the fantastic, amazing, impressive performance from Jaron Ennis this past weekend?
Yeah, that was a tremendous performance from him. He showed why he deserves to be in that top pound-for-pound list. He's a special fighter, Boots Ennis, and the Virgil Ortiz fight is the fight we want to make. You know, it's a fight that Boots has already agreed to. Now it's on Virgil Ortiz. He's got his fight against Lubin next month. He's got to come through that, but that's the fight we want to see ourselves.
What date would you picture first quarter of next year? Do you have any kind of estimate of the time and location?
Yeah, first quarter of next year is the plan, all being well with his fight, as I say, in November.
Do you expect him to come through that?
I believe so, yeah. Look, Virgil's a brilliant fighter, but I think when he comes up against Jaron Boots Ennis, you're going to see who the truth is.
Most people are expecting Virgil Ortiz to come through the Erickson Lubin fight, and maybe he does, but who's to say that he doesn't have some nagging injury right after that prevents him from fighting Jaron Ennis? If you're Oscar De La Hoya and your Golden Boy Promotions, maybe you don't really want this Ennis fight, but you have to save face for your fighter somehow. And one way you can do that is if Virgil is somehow injured in the fight and unable to come back in the first quarter of the year. That would leave the door open for Boots to fight somebody else while saving face for your fighter.
That somebody else ain't gonna be Bakram.
I know it's not. I believe it will be Abbas Baru, and as far as Bakram and what he'll do in the mean in-between time, it doesn't look like this Josh Kelly fight is going to materialize, and Bakram may end up sitting out the entirety of this year, so that by the time Boots gets to him,
we could be looking at a year and a half of inactivity, maybe more. No one is in a hurry to fight him, not even the guy who was ordered to.
Not even Josh Kelly. People wonder, if the IBF is such a well-run organization that orders fights in a timely fashion, why don't more fighters go through them? The bigger names, the familiar ones. It's because of that rehydration cap.
Nobody wants to deal with that. Boots doesn't want to deal with that. So he'll pick up a belt along the way. That way, when he does fight for the IBF title,
there won't be a rehydration cap. The IBF waives the cap in the event of unification matches. I figure we might get Boots versus Bakram in the second or third quarter of next year.
And unfortunately for Bakram, he might not have a fight in between now and then. Main Events, who promotes him, doesn't have a broadcast partner. All they can do is rent him out to the promoters that do.
Now would be a good time for Turki El Sheikh to get involved and maybe help that guy out. In men's light heavyweight news, Callum Smith is confident of securing David Benavidez' fight in 2026. Callum Smith is confident that he will finally get David Benavidez at some point in the coming year. Smith is currently in negotiations to make a dangerous mandatory defense of his WBO interim light heavyweight title against Cuban southpaw David Morrell, whilst Benavidez will put his WBC title on the line against Britain's Anthony Yarde on the star-laden Ring 4, which takes place in Riyadh next month. During an appearance on Talk Sport Boxing, Smith revealed that whilst the PBC did make contact about a fight with Benavidez, it wasn't a great offer, and that further talks about the fight taking place in Saudi Arabia had barely started before he saw the news that Yarde had been handed a third shot at snaring a light heavyweight title. Beating Buatsi to win the WBO interim title this past February has afforded the former super middleweight champion the time and luxury of an ability to bide time and wait for the right offer to come his way. but the 35-year-old Liverpudlian did admit that missing out on a chance to become a two-division world champion has irked him.
That and the inactivity. The Buatsi fight was way back there at the beginning of the year, and it looks like that's going to be the only fight that Callum has. The David Morrell fight is said to be going down early next year. Inactivity has been a problem for Callum Smith over the years. He's an entertaining fighter to watch, durable and formidable, but not active enough.
Yeah, definitely, because the Benavidez fight is the fight that I want. I've been vocal about that. I think we were both world champions at 168 at the same time, and it's a fight I always thought would happen, Smith said. We were both big at 168, so I thought we'd both end up at 175, which we are now. He's got himself the WBC title, but I think I'm in a good position regardless. I'm the WBO interim champion, and I think that fight will happen. Provided that I come through my next one, I think the Benavidez fight will always be there. Smith is anticipating an entertaining, crowd-pleasing clash of styles when Benavidez and Yard do get in the ring, but he believes that the 28-year-old workaholic will eventually prove to be too much for the explosive Londoner and end up retaining his title. Workaholic in the sense that David Benavidez has a pretty high work rate for a guy his size. I do. I think it'll be a good fight. Could be competitive early on, but I think stylistically, Benavidez has got a very, very good work rate and good punch output. Think that's probably the style to beat Yard, he said. I think Yard's a good fighter, but I don't think he does 12 rounds well. I think with the pace Benavidez sets, think his boxing abilities are better than what people give him credit for as well, so I do favor Benavidez, but, as I say, it's a good fight, and you never know.
Callum has his own fight with David Morrell to think about, and you could probably give Callum decent odds to win that fight on the premise that, as a light heavyweight compared to David, he's been looking better. Callum has been looking devastating as a light heavyweight, save the loss to Artur Beterbiev, whereas David Morrell has been looking more and more human as a light heavyweight, fight by fight.
Arguably lost to Imam Katayev, and everybody knows it, but he got lucky. So you could give Callum decent odds to win that fight. He wants the winner of Benavidez versus Yard, and he thinks the winner is going to be David Benavidez. Here's a problem.
Turkey LL Sheik wants to put David Benavidez in the ring with Artur Beterbiev next year. Not only that, David Benavidez himself is still playing with the idea of moving up to cruiser and boxing Zurdo Ramirez. So where Callum Smith thinks the David Benavidez fight is always going to be there...
And don't forget about Dmitry Bivol. He's got the other 3 alphabet titles at the weight. Near as I can tell, there are 3 other guys in the queue ahead of Callum Smith in line for a Benavidez fight. Callum Smith is not a high priority. The only way Callum Smith gets the winner of that fight, I think, is if the winner of that fight is Anthony Yard. If Yard wins a fight, beats Benavidez, becomes WBC champion, well, he already fought Artur Beterbiev and lost.
I don't think there's going to be a rematch.
Callum Smith versus Anthony Yard in the UK for the WBC title, that puts asses in the seats, I think, at the O2 Arena. That sells tickets. So maybe Callum gets the winner if the winner is Anthony Yard.
We'll see what happens next month.